Hey guys, this is Chris of Wilson Wildlife Sculpture, and this video is about my new compositions featuring Carolina Wren and lots of things going on in the environment. I carved all these out of wood, and I'm going to talk about the three important ingredients to sculpture, which can help you if you want to collect art as well as create art, or just view art with greater appreciation. So I used to teach art appreciation as professor of art at Kennesaw State University for 7 years. And so I hope I can explain this genre of art, wood carving and sculpture, and talk a little bit about my process, about what is important in choosing the ingredients for making successful artwork, including two-dimensional work, three-dimensional work. You know, this is all can be learned, and I have lots of videos on my channel for that. I primarily produce work of wildlife, Wilson Wildlife Sculpture, but I have also been trained doing figurative work and abstract work. I have more of that on my website and some categories on my YouTube channel. So I was commissioned about a year ago to create this composition in the middle, and it took me almost a year to make. So my client wanted a Carolina Wren, mushrooms, insects, all in a very involved composition, all carved out of wood. So this is one of the reasons I do well with my work. I can create sculptures that collectors want, and to me the important ingredients to successful artwork are craftsmanship. That is the use of tools and techniques to produce good craftsmanship. Also the concepts, that is what your work is about. Does it tell a story? Is there a unique presentation or concept with your work? Is it original? Concepts are very important. I learned that getting my master's degree of sculpture as well as teaching and just working over the years. And finally, form. My undergraduate degree and going to art school was very important in understanding form, and that's in 3D is what it looks like. That's the composition, the arrangement of the elements of design and principles of organization. The elements are color, line, shape, texture, space, even time in 3D work. There are more, and the principles are the unity, variety, the emphasis or dominance, the use of repetition and rhythm and movement. So many different types of principles and elements, and that's what the artwork looks like. So it's important the work basically looks good, okay? And you know, if it adds a story or meaning, then even better, because your work is more meaningful. You tell a story. A lot of times work is about the artist or themselves. And I think all art, in a way, is a bit of a self-portrait. So I've created these birds because I have Carolina Wrens that come up to my back deck every day. I see them nesting and feeding around my house. So it's a southern bird. Although Carolina Wrens are, there's different kind of wrens. They're found throughout the U.S. I also have mushrooms growing in my yard and lots of insects. I don't spray for any kind of insects. I don't use chemicals or even take medicine or pills for that fact. I lead a very healthy lifestyle, and I want it to be healthy for wildlife as well. So doing this full time, I learned those three important ingredients of concepts, craftsmanship, and form have been successful ingredients to creating good works, and that my collectors have valued in my work. And that's something you want to look for in work. There's different styles of work, and this is realism. There also can be, stylized works. There's different degrees of realism too. There is hyperrealism, there is photorealism, there's natural realism, there's kind of a loose or impressionistic realism, painterly styles. My work is fairly tight, however I've loosened up the last 40 years and I do abstract work, and even my realism, I try to show the essence of the subject matter. I try to capture the way the bird cocks its tail and the environment, trying to tell a story with these works. And I think that's very important to bridge the gap between just craft and fine art, where I draw emotion and, you know, I try to bring a higher level of art through my work, not just the craftsmanship, not just trying to capture a scientific, you know, accuracy bird, because why not just, you know, cast a bird, or you know, there's taxidermy. But I enjoy capturing all these details, carving in wood. I'll show you an example of how I start here. This is just a mushroom example. In fact, these are some of my first mushrooms. I've been carving birds since I was 10 years old. All these things are carved. There's a moth in here. If you can see this southern flannel moth, and an insect here. Insects are challenging to carve. So this is an example of the wood I use. It's Tupelo wood, and I carve the birds out of one piece of wood. The legs are made of metal; they're separate. But the mushrooms, I did the top separate and the stems separate, and I glued together. It's just basically, it's pretty easy to do, but to get them real soft appearance, you have to finely sand them and then seal them, and just really sand and do layers of paint. In this case, I use acrylics for the habitat for these mushrooms. Also, I carve these flowers, the yellow jasmine. Full disclosure, I have a show next week in Charleston, South Carolina, and the featured, actually the state bird and state flower of South Carolina is the Carolina Wren on the yellow jasmine. So, not sure about the state mushroom. Again, I'm pretty new to that. But I did depict, here's another moth. I depict some other southern wildlife, like the southern flannel moth, and this is carved wood. Very difficult to do this, to create this amount of detail. And I don't know if you can see this detail. I'll try to show you close-ups if you stay to the end, as well as a lot more tips if you keep following along. So I appreciate you following me and or liking and commenting on my work, and most of all, subscribe to my channel if you find value to my videos. So thanks very much. So I'll tell you a little bit more about how I create these. Again, I don't cut any trees down making my wood. This cherry log came, I was given this wood. A neighbor had a tree company, and I could see the wood in the back of his truck he just takes it to a dump. And I was like, hey, that's American cherry, or black cherry. That's really good wood. Same thing with this black walnut. Okay, I get scraps of wood. This came from a lumber yard. Most of the time I work from logs though. And so, yeah, I don't cut wood. My Tupelo wood, I traded for many decades, you know, a couple decades ago, not many decades ago, but actually more like 30 years ago, so it has been a while. But I traded the wood because I knew Tupelo gum grows in the South, and it's great for carving, and it's expensive to buy. But I had a landowner that a hurricane took down lots of his trees, and so I traded one of my birds for 2 truckloads of wood back in the 1990s, and that wood has lasted me today. But you can find Tupelo wood. There are dealers who do sell it online. It grows from Louisiana to North Carolina. Again, I got mine in Georgia, and I live in Georgia. So most of these works are carved in Tupelo wood. I did use some basswood for this moth. I actually use lint from my hair dryer to create some fuzz. I use metal for the legs and acrylics to paint it. It's challenging to work this small, and this is even smaller. There's even a smaller little red bug here, an insect here. It just gives a little more interaction to the piece. And if you stay tuned, I'm going to demonstrate how I'm going to just improve this one here. I can see some issues with it. But let me rotate this so you can see it from different sides. Put these a little bit more together. I think they go well together. This one already found a home. These two are looking for homes. You can find these under songbirds at my website at wilsonwildlifesculpture.com. And again, I've been doing this for over 40 years and professionally for 30 years, at least 30 years. So it's, you know, this work is marketable. You can sell it. But if you focus on the way the bird looks, getting the right anatomy, the form, the colors, the texture, the plumage, the sheen of the work, the essence of the species, you know, you have to understand anatomy, details, and that comes from observation. You can learn this yourself. You can study birds. It's you know, it's good to see birds in their natural habitat. You can also look at specimens up close. Going to nature centers and zoos or museums. I prefer to look at the birds in the wild with binoculars. But the wrens will come right up to my window. I put food out, I track them, and that's a great way to study them. And it's free. So I don't think I showed you all different angles here. This one's a little bit different because he's under the canopy of the mushroom. This one's perched on top of the mushroom, and I made him come apart. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate how I'm going to make some moss here, because the moss is great as well as the sweet gum balls. The leaves are metal, the vines are metal, it's silver soldered, different types of metal I use. And I'm going to demonstrate how I make moss on this piece. And basically I make the moss with my power tool carving. These are wood shavings, and I just collect them. I use a coarse bit and then make the moss. This came from a hardwood, so it's a different color. But tupelo, basswood are light woods. But if I were to carve cherry or walnut, the wood's going to be darker. But I like my moss to be bright and green. It adds life. Green goes well with brown. This base is American cherry. This one is too. Let me show you a little bit close-ups of it there. You can see that okay. So let me show you a couple things. I will use 5-minute epoxy, gluing the moss down, and I need something to mix it on. And also I always multitask. So I have a Lazy Susan under this, and I got to repair this Lazy Susan for my show, so I got to glue a little tab on here. A couple of little tabs have come loose so they don't scrape my pedestals. So yeah, I try to multitask. That's why I made a few of these birds. I knew I would sell them fast, and that's my work goes fast on my website, and especially at shows. So let's get on to a demonstration here. First thing to do is to get the epoxy out. This is 5-minute epoxy, quick cure. I prefer it in separate tubes. You can also buy it like a syringe, but it's messier that way. It doesn't last as long. So I'm just waiting for the glue to come down to the tips. You can also, a trick is to warm up the epoxy. And that way it flows better, it sets up faster. It just works, you know, works better generally. However, sometimes you want to work a little slow, and in 5 minutes of working, I actually have more like 10. And in 15 minutes, you can in 10 minutes it'll hold, in 15 minutes it should set. So I'm going to show you some tricks in using the epoxy that I've learned over the years. I don't really need to use a mask for the epoxy, but if you're sensitive, you might want to. I am doing it inside, and so I'm careful all the time about the toxicity of materials. That's why I use non-toxic paints and basically non-toxic materials. I reuse things from nature, like wood. Like I said, even creating the moth, I use lint from my hair dryer. So even my wood shavings and scrap pieces of metal, I will weld together. These don't have stone bases, but I'll also reuse bases. So you pour 50-50 out together, and then you're going to mix those. I'm going to have my glasses so I can see this a little bit better. let's see if you can see this here. I've got some wood shavings on here. You can see, even I made this plastic lichen out of plastic. So, okay, so just mix this 50-50, this puddle of epoxy. I like to use this knife. It's good, it applies it very easily. It's also very ergonomic to my hand. So it's my favorite knife out of many I have. And I primarily just use it for mixing epoxy and applying things to sculptures. So I'm gonna fix this one right here because I don't like the gap between the mushroom and the base. You can see that. Okay, so first, well, that is setting up. I'm going to fix this little Lazy Susan because I wanted to have these little rubber pads on for my show. That's a nice thing about being a sculptor. I can fix all kinds of things, and I'm often asked to. So there, a little 5-minute epoxy on those, and it should be good as new. It can turn around, and I put these underneath my sculptures so they can turn, just like the Lazy Susan on this base. So that's done. I'll put that down. And I gotta work fast here. So I'm just gonna, I don't wanna glue it down permanently, so that way I won't be able to take it off. I just wanna add some epoxy at the base. Okay, and you can see this piece of moss actually came loose. So I'm gonna use that as reference. I'm actually gonna put a little bit of, here's the piece there, put a little epoxy on the back, very carefully to not get on my hands, and then just put that finished piece in there. So I actually had it better. Okay, now I'm going to take this off, this bird, set it down for a second, because I'll need it for seeing how it fits on there. And I'm going to add more of this epoxy on here. And around here. I'll add some more, but I'm going to add the wood shavings now. Let's make sure you can see this okay. Yeah. And just kind of dab it on. Be careful not to get on your fingers. Might be better off using a tool. But I'm being careful. It's okay if some excess falls. Again, I like using big pieces of epoxy here. And there's a little area here that, okay. I'm going to put the piece back on, look for gaps, and then fill a couple other areas while I still have time. Okay, so there's one side. And the moss just looks better there, I think. So let's go around the other side, look for gaps. Yep, I see a gap there. And I will just add more moss here. Add more, actually, epoxy first. And it's starting to thicken up a little bit. See how much time you have here. And I'll show you another trick if you stay to the end, which is a real good trick for working with epoxy glue. Okay, take it back out. I'm actually going to add a little bit more kind of underneath the piece a little bit. Spread it out a little bit because I'm going to add the moss, a lot more moss there. So as if the mushroom's just growing right out of the earth with a moss, patch of moss. And I will paint this with different values. You look at the moss I'm making. I paint with different values. I'll add yellow, then medium green, then dark green. And that's how I get my work to pop. I've got painting tricks and videos, but value is just as important as the hue of the color, the intensity of the color. The value is the relative lightness or darkness. So the hue is important. I got some different yellows in the moss, some browns. Moss can vary, but I like to mine be pretty bright, but not straight out of the tube. So watch my painting videos if you want to learn painting techniques. Against going to art school and knowing color theory, mixing all different types of paints. I can basically mix anything. But you can look at the color wheel and figure this stuff out. And I explain that in some of my videos. I have some videos on my website for purchase too, like carving a bobwhite quail. And I will, oops, it goes the other way. So this is going to start to set up here. Oh, also I've got magnolia flowers, how I make flowers on my video on my website. And that gets more involved in all my details. This is just a kind of a got to concentrate here. This is just a little warm up to all of my bigger videos. Okay, so I pretty much surrounded the moss. Now I got a tad bit on my finger here. I'll scrape that off, and yeah, I'll wash my hands quickly here. But the trick at the end here, I was going to show since I'm almost done, and I'll move this over out of the way so you can see a little bit better. The trick at the end is just to, once it starts to set up, if you have made a mistake, like there's a little bit of glue there, okay, I would use a clean knife and wait for it to set. It's not quite set yet, but what you can do is you can either add more moss just like I did, or you can peel it off just as it is set. It has to already set, otherwise it's too sticky. Okay, that way you can clean things off. I just don't want to clean it off my skin because I need to wash it off quickly. So it's setting up now, and I hope you learned some things from this video. See, I got another little thing I got to get off, so I'm going to wash my hand and fix that. I appreciate your commentary, how I can make better videos, and I appreciate you liking and commenting on my work, as well as subscribing to my channel. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.